Hi, it's Iram Ali here, immigration solicitor. Welcome to my channel, Immigration with Iram. Today we will be exploring the various types of work visas that are available in the UK. So if you are thinking of coming to the UK to work, then you need to watch this video and you need to watch all of this video. And hopefully you will find the information extremely useful. So let's dive straight in. The first work visa type available in the UK, and probably the one that's the most common that people consider, is the skilled worker visa. Now, this is a category introduced by the Home Office to attract migrant staff to the UK, and the Home Office have produced a list which is referred to as the occupation list. There's an occupation shortage list for jobs that are more in demand, which there's a big shortage of in the UK. And there's also then an ordinary list of the different occupations that you can apply for. It's extremely important to make sure at the time of application that the occupation is still on that list, because the Home Office won't accept an application if the occupation isn't on the occupation list. So you must make sure that that is there to start with. The second thing I want to touch on, and the most important probably, is that you understand that you have to have a valid job offer from a UK employer. Without a valid job offer, you cannot apply for a skilled worker visa. Okay, now the job offer must come from a UK employer that has a business sponsor license that they've obtained from the Home Office. Without that, they cannot employ migrant staff. Yeah, so you've got a UK employer, they have to apply to the Home Office for a business sponsor license. That enables them to employ migrant staff, whether that's from within the UK or from outside of the UK. And the sponsorship that they give you is called a certificate of sponsorship. That's what it looks like. It's like a letter. It confirms all of the employment details on there. You know, what the occupation is, how much the salary is, what your working hours will be, where the location is that you'll be working at. The employer's details. There'll be a couple of codes on there that the Home Office will use, and that is what you will use to apply for your skilled worker visa. Without that, or without a valid certificate of sponsorship, you will not be able to apply for a skilled worker visa. So that's your starting point, other than knowing whether the occupation is on the occupation list or not. Coupled with that is the criteria for a skilled worker visa. So once you've got your job offer, you need to consider the rest of the criteria under the immigration rules. And they include things like passing the English language requirement. Different jobs have different requirements. So you must familiarise yourself with what the requirement is, and then pass the relevant test, which is commonly referred to as the IELTS test. And the centre in which you take the test must be an approved centre by the Home Office. So you must make sure that you check whether or not the centre where you're going to take your English test is approved by the Home Office or not. Otherwise, if you pass a test in a centre that's not approved, the Home Office will not accept that certificate. So that's really important to make sure you know which centre you need to go to. You need to have a minimum of money in your bank account, and you must have held it for at least 28 days. The Home Office want to see that you have enough money to cover your living costs as soon as you arrive to the UK. So there is a minimum requirement for the amount of money that you have in your account, and you must familiarise yourself with that. If you're a migrant and you've lived in the UK for 12 months or more, then you don't have to meet that requirement. But if you are from outside the UK, then you absolutely have to. You also then need to declare your immigration history, especially if there's anything adverse in there, any past refusals. You have to declare your travel history for the last 10 years. Some visas have a requirement of providing a criminal bureau check, especially if you're working with children or vulnerable adults. And there are various other documents that the Home Office will ask for. It's important to remember that once you submit an application, the Home Office can come back with further inquiries. So it's not a done deal once you've submitted an application with the relevant supporting documents and you think that that's it, I'm done. The Home Office could invite you to interview, or they can ask you for more documentation, more information. So it is advised that you provide as much information as the Home Office asks for in your initial application, but bear in mind that they reserve the right to ask you more questions and ask for more information, either regarding the occupation itself or the employer or you. Some jobs require a qualification, some jobs don't, some jobs require experience, some don't. Very much dependent on the employer. However, if you're coming here under the health and care worker as a nurse, then you will be expected to have a certain qualification. Or if you come in here as a doctor or a pilot, then of course you need to have a certain qualification. And the occupation shortage list and the occupation list do give you that information of whether you need a qualification or not, or your experience alone is enough. Moving on then, there's the health and care worker visa. This is a visa for for the healthcare sector, and it's usually from the National Health Service, which we refer to as the NHS. And there are a range of different occupations within that, from your care worker to your nurse to your doctor to your general practitioner. So there are a range of roles. They're usually advertised through the NHS website. There are a number of agencies who recruit for the NHS as well. So you would have to have a look online to see where the vacancies are. And like I've just explained with the skilled worker visa, there is also a criteria alongside having a valid job offer, which will include having a minimum amount of money in your account and passing the relevant English test. There may be and are very specific requirements for health and care worker visas, so you must familiarise yourself with what those are, which usually come with the job offer. There will be requirements stipulated by the employer. Moving on, there's the global talent visa. Now this one is for people who are in specific fields like science or engineering or the arts or medicine. So if you're in the arts, for example, and you're coming here to perform, then the Home Office will expect to see your touring dates, locations, what the arrangements are, who is the sponsor here, and could ask you for anything really with regards to your occupation and your plans once you come into the UK. Where will you be performing and who's going to arrange and all of that. The next one is the startup and the innovator visa categories. Now, the startup visas are no longer available. So a few years ago, you were able to invest, I think it was a minimum of £50,000, and you can set up a business in the UK. Those visas are no longer available. That category has closed down. But the innovator visa category is still open for applications. And for this visa type, other than having a business plan or a business idea that is an innovation, you have to have a UK endorser, and those endorsers are licensed by the Home Office to act as endorsers, and they will endorse your business plan or your plan to come and do business in the UK with an idea that is an innovation. Something that there's that we don't already have in the UK. It might be a piece of technology, it might be a new skincare product, it might be a research, something that you're researching to do, something that we don't usually have here quite commonly. So not like a restaurant or a beauty parlour or a hairdresser. not those kind of businesses. It is a new idea that you want to bring to the UK. I think one that I did quite recently was a gas plant using waste materials. It was really, really interesting. So like I said, something that's not quite common in the UK. There's demand for, in the sense that we're looking for something new, something in addition. So you must be endorsed by an endorser who is licensed to endorse an application. And I'm aware that there is a list of endorsers online, so that's where you can look to see what's on the list. And finally, you've got your temporary worker visas, and those include coming to the UK for short-term work, whether that's for cultural exchange or for charity work. Those applications are fairly straightforward, but you do have to have, again, confirmation from the charity that you're coming here, when you're expected to arrive, and what sort of work you will be doing. They are up to 12 months, those visas. Extensions are available, but subject to the charity obviously endorsing your application and wanting you to continue for a longer period in the UK. But the visas are granted for a 12-month period of time. They offer short-term work. So that's your main work visas. Now, linked to these visas are a whole host of fees. And you've got two sets of fees. You have application fees, and then you have the immigration health surcharge. Now, the application fees are, in many cases, especially for the skilled worker visa and the health and care worker visa, for those, they are very much dependent on the length of the visa that you're applying for. So the application fee is lower for the 1 year work visa, slightly higher for the 3 year, slightly higher for the 5 year. So the length of the visa determines the application fee. And then coupled with that is your immigration health surcharge. Now, the health surcharge is £1,035 per year per applicant, adult applicant, and then it's slightly lower for a child dependent. And again, it's times by the number of years that you're applying in the application. So if you're applying for a 5-year visa, then your health surcharge will be calculated for the 5 years. And then other than that, you may have a fee for your biometric enrolment. Usually there are some free appointments kicking around, but there are certain centres that have a fee regardless. So I know Mirbur in Pakistan, they have an additional fee for booking in that centre, but you can in other places, and in most places, you can book a free appointment. When you book your appointment, if you're uploading the documents yourself, then you must make sure you select the right appointment. Otherwise, there won't be any provision for you to upload your own documents. So you have to make sure that you click on the right category when booking your biometric enrolment. Other than that, usually there is a standard turnaround time for work visa applications. However, some can take longer than the time that the Home Office indicates. So usually for a skilled worker visa, you're looking at around 3 weeks from the date of biometrics. It's always from the date of biometrics. It's never from the date of application. So if the Home Office are saying that it's going to take, it could take us around 3 weeks to determine your application, then the start date of that 3 weeks is from the date of biometric enrolment. So you must remember that, because without your biometric enrolment, your visa application is not complete. So that's the thing to remember. But so some do get determined in 3 weeks. Some don't. If the Home Office need to ask you for more information, they need to make further inquiries, they want to interview you, then it will take longer than 3 weeks, definitely, most definitely. And then once you're granted a visa, the Home Office usually grant you 90 days to come to the UK. They do ask you in the application what your work start date is. Now, obviously, your work start date will be determined by whether or not you're here. But you need to put a provisional date in there to give the Home Office some indication of when your employer is expecting you to start. And it's more relevant if your start date is 3 months in the future. So they absolutely need to know that, and it must then correspond with the date that's on the certificate of sponsorship. So just make sure that those two dates are consistent. But obviously your start date will depend on your visa and you getting to the UK first. The Home Office are aware of that. Other than that, if there's something else that you need to make the Home Office aware of, it's a good idea to add a covering letter. So if there's a discrepancy in your documents, most common things that I see is home addresses not updated on ID cards, typos in, you typed your name wrong in the application, it doesn't match your passport, and you've realised after you've submitted your application, things like that you think could be rectified just by explaining in the covering letter. Then make sure you do add a covering letter. Some information that you need to rectify may warrant you withdrawing the application and resubmitting it, but it just depends on what that is, really. But if there are discrepancies, or if you need to make the Home Office aware of something, then it's a good idea to add a covering letter with your application and upload that with your supporting documents. Other than that, people do ask me, should I instruct a solicitor to do my work visa application? And my answer always is yes, you should. Applications for work visas are complex, there is absolutely no doubt in that. And the immigration rules as a whole are quite difficult and complex to navigate. There are various places where information is stored by the Home Office. So you've got guidance notes, you've got appendices, you've got the website. And as solicitors, we keep ourselves up to date and familiarise ourselves with all of that information and know exactly what to look for and where to look for it. But it is always a good idea to instruct a solicitor to assist you with such applications. I'm not saying you can't do them by yourself, but obviously as a solicitor, I will say that it's a good idea to instruct a solicitor. And if you are seeking to do this by yourselves, then just make sure that you familiarise yourself with the category, the requirements, the fee structure, the application process, and the process for the biometric enrolment. When you submit an application, the system produces a checklist. So that's something that you can use to make sure that the mandatory documents are uploaded. But that doesn't ask you for all of the additional documents. It asks you for all the mandatory ones, but there may be additional documents that you need to submit as part of your application that may or may not be on that checklist. So you just need to make sure that you evidence all of the information that you're providing in the application form. So I hope that I've given you a quick tour through the various work visas and the fee structure. I've been successful in many applications for people who have arrived here, they're working here, they're thriving here, they've built a really good life for themselves here. And it's always a pleasure to see people arrive and start work and start their lives. So when you are considering working in the UK, just make sure that you don't end up with a refusal just because you've missed something from the application. I can't think of anything more frustrating if that happens. But if your application is refused, the Home Office will let you know in the refusal whether or not they give you the right of appeal. Appeals take a long time, so my advice usually is that it is often quicker, if not cheaper, to just simply reapply and deal with the refusal reason in your fresh application. But if you do appeal, then there is a completely separate appeal process which you would need to familiarise yourself with before lodging that appeal. So I hope you find the content of this video useful. I will continue providing you with legal advice which is accurate and authentic to help you navigate your way through the immigration rules, which are sometimes complex and daunting. But at your service, Iram Ali, solicitor, and hopefully you will have a successful application, whether you follow the advice that I give you or you wish to instruct me. But until my next video, take really good care of yourselves and goodbye.